activity. And this is an opportunity for an artist to actually paint the bridges with light, to encourage people to sort of look at how individual they were and to look at their histories.
We're going to be using just in excess of 13,000 separate light fittings. So each one of those we need to monitor to see how they're performing. An in-track landmark can do that. It can go in and check every individual light fitting every day, check that it's operating correctly, and start to predict any faults that might occur.
I think there's an opportunity here for creating work that means that people will stop on their commute across a bridge, pause, have a moment out of their busy day, look at the river, look at the reason why London is where it is, and maybe have a conversation with someone they don't know about how beautiful the river looks.
There are limitless opportunities with connected lighting to make buildings and monuments better in cities. Cityfi's Interact Landmark will provide connected lighting management system.
Quality LED lighting provides a uniform wash of warm white light, bringing out the golden color of the bridge. Because the bridge is constantly in use by watercraft and train traffic, it was vital that the lighting could be remotely adjusted with short notice.
The Coast Guard was a very important stakeholder in this project. It was important for us to make sure that barges could travel safely underneath the crossing. And to do this, we implemented controls so that when barges passed underneath the crossing, the lights dimmed.
The bridge is typically lit in an amber hue, but colors and light shows can also be adjusted remotely for holidays and special occasions.
Out on the crossing, the lights are on, you see the skyline. It's just an amazing experience.
Hey, good evening. How are you doing?
Hey, Brent, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Great. I'm going to mute myself for just a moment, okay, while I finish a little project here with Casey.
Perfect. No problem.
I'm going to go ahead and try to share the screen as
Okay.
well, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this one document from, there's something I'm not doing right with this document that's supposed to be the whole page, and I don't know how to get it to be the whole page, but let's just try. Just one second. Brent, do you see anyone else on the screen now besides us and this one part that we're screen sharing?
No, I don't see anyone as of yet.
And I am, if I'm not mistaken, I am not going to be using the, just a second. Casey, you do have to get me on the Facebook Live, hon. Okay, yeah, it's 5 after 6, just for a second. It's right now still just Brent and me. Okay, so one of the things that I was wondering about, Brent, is I'm gonna stop screen sharing a minute here.
Hey,
There's
Casey.
Casey.
Howdy.
He's gonna get us onto Facebook Live. I'm gonna step back and Brent, the opening though introduction, that's your video, right? That you're gonna screen share with? I'm not using the old homecoming. Am I using the black and white homecoming version, or are we just using your film that you do to introduce the course?
No, we were gonna do just the standard one. If that's the one that we've been trying to. I don't think we used it last week, but just the standard one.
Okay, I thought I did, and I didn't see that Rachel sent me that link. Did you see it in her email to you and me? Did you see that in there?
No, I didn't. If for that video, I did not see it.
Okay. Neither Brent nor I see a link to the homecoming video, nor do I see an evaluation link to put in the chat area.
I can get you the evaluation link.
Okay. I won't put that in there.
Yeah, that's.
Can you send it for me to turn it on? Question.
Right, there's the 12.
What's going on, Brent?
Hey there, what's going on? You doing all right, sir?
Yeah, bro. How you doing?
Good.
Hi, Fred. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Pam.
Good. Hey, Jalen. How are you? Is that how you pronounce it, Jalen?
Jalen. Yeah.
Oh, Jalen. Oh, you all know Jalen. All right.
So the link is right here. I'll even copy it. And nope, it's not it. It's right here.
Brent, how's everything going? Project.
Okay. Well, anybody who comes in after you post it won't see it, so you have to put it in later.
Oh,
No, but I've copied it to your clipboard, so you should be able to paste it in the chat when it's time. But I will. What we can do, just when you copy
I
something,
went to Atlanta this weekend, Brent.
good stuff, place it.
Good. What was going on out there?
My cousin married Cynthia Bailey from America, from the Atlanta Housewives.
Niels has it if they.
Mike Thomas, he's a sportscaster.
I'll put it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
This is ready to go.
bruh,
Just hit
looked at the setup.
Because if I don't hit it before it goes down,
I thought it was gonna be bigger than that.
before.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The setup. Yeah. They light game was shabby.
Live now. I just figured.
Very shabby. Yeah.
It's not that great thumbnail on me. You're all right.
They were shooting with those cannons.
That link is uploaded right now.
Not the ones we have, but the ones that kind of you know what I'm talking about. It look like a 35 millimeter, but it has the XLRs, kind of like the red. Yeah, they were shooting with those.
Gotcha. Yeah. My
We are streaming live on Facebook, so just be aware of your comments, please.
Okay.
And welcome everyone. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, y'all. You talk amongst yourself for a few more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Which Fred, did they have like the C300s or the C500s? Did you see which one specifically?
Man, you know what? They had the C500. That's the one they got the monitor that sits up here, right?
Yeah.
That's what they had. They were shooting with the C500s.
Yeah.
I guess it's a bad camera, but now since they came out with the 4Ks and stuff, you get the HDs kind of cheap.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You can get that. Yeah. And the demand for 4K isn't quite there yet outside of video people are doing. And I tell them it's like with HD, the television stations, everybody went over to HD maybe 7-8 years ago?
7-8 years ago. Yeah.
So it's the same thing, like 4K won't become a standard. I mean, for broadcast television, it'll be a little while. Now, of course,
a little while. Exactly.
Yeah, streaming, Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that, you can watch stuff 4K, but it'll be a thing. But yeah, like you said, you can get one of those cameras for,
Dude, I'm about to purchase the HD camera. I'll move closer to the 4K. Once we get through, about the time we get through editing it, it's not, people won't worry about the 4K. Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell everybody there are some things that really just concern the specific sector that you are, So if you have an 8K camera, only 1% of probably videographers would even know the difference with 8K and 4K, whatever. So
yeah,
it's just not Now, but I guess if you got the money to get one of those 8K cameras, which I just don't know how much even,
Bruh, I can't fathom it, so I don't even look at them.
Like, man, but you're right. Yeah, and I've shot on a few because we've rented some of those some of those other cameras. I hadn't rented a C500 yet, but we've gotten to see. Well, I take that back. I did rent the HD version 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, that's down my alley right now. Just let me rent if I need it for a project.
Exactly. If somebody's just demanding 4K,
Right. Yeah. Right. Man. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that wedding. I know that was awesome. Did they were the people from Housewives? Well, I know they were there too, probably for the next season, huh?
Yeah, they filmed some shots there. Oh man. What's her name? Miss America? Kenya Brent. Yeah. All in the bag of chips, man. Her and the other girl that was the top model. What's her name? Light brown eyes.
Eva,
man. Yeah, man. Beautiful women, bro. Beautiful women. Candy, of course. Candy and her husband are so out there. They're down to earth, man. They're pretty cool, bro. I actually, man, they were normal, bro. No bodyguards, anything like that. They're real cool, man. They're real cool.
That's awesome.
You're real cool.
How many people were at?
Rodriguez, just for 1 second. Rodriguez, are you there? Will you take yourself off mute a minute? By chance, Fred, do you have the video, the homecoming video?
Yes.
Can you take over sharing screen for a moment, or can you?
Yeah, hold on. Let me.
I'm going to stop sharing right here for just 1 second.
Okay.
And I wondered if you could do I don't seem to have the link to the homecoming film.
Hold on for a minute. I have it. Hold on. I know I got it. Hold on.
If you don't, I know Rodriguez does because he's.
Oh, I have it. Hold on. I just got it.
Okay, great.
Where's my homecoming folder? Okay. Hold on. Wait a minute. Downloads. All right. Bear with me, Pam.
It's okay.
I'm not on my personal computer. Hold on. I'm on my backup computer. Let's see. Let's grab a tour. I know I got it on here, but I just watched it the other day.
I know I've got it too, but for whatever reason, I just cannot pull it up.
Well, you know what? Let me just download it again because I know I have it here. And this is what we'll do. I need it. Can I find it? Okay, there we go. Here we go. Is this it? Hold on. Is this it? Hold on. I'm coming. Okay. Shonda. Material. Oh God.
Well, we're awfully quiet while he is looking. So has everyone had a wonderful Monday and you're ready to rock and roll with Brent tonight and learn more than you could ever imagine you would have learned? Ooh, we're quiet out there.
I know I'm excited to show what I know, but like I think I say every week, I always learn something as well. So I'm always excited to be on both ends of the spectrum, and like to think that I'm more leading on a conversation for everybody learning.
Well, I wish the whole world would participate because we are all learning so much. And as you said, it's just phenomenal. Jalen, did you participate? I'm going to see if I can get you to talk. Did you happen to zoom in last week and hear the Thursday night presentation on the impact and the history of HBCUs? That was the program that Sharon Heron Williams moderated, hosted, but she also brought in Dr. Joyce Payne, who was the founder of the Thurgood Marshall Fund that created HBCUs, and it was just remarkable. I can't tell if anyone, I know Rodriguez was on that, and I know that Fred, you were on that. It was just really a remarkable conversation.
It was great. It'd be better if I can find this video. Hold on. Yeah.
You don't have to create it all anew. And we are at 6:15, so I'm afraid to lose much. What if we play it at the intermission, Fred, and let Brent go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let him get started. Let him get started.
All righty. I think that would be best. Now, we'll find it and play it at the intermission. And Brent, are you going to do an introduction or will I do an introduction? That's the thing now. Let me just say to everybody, we're hearing tonight from Brent Latin with Young Professionals Entertainment, who's been in the entertainment business all of his life, who has been a performer. He plays many musical instruments and teaches piano. And he learned that it's not just enough to perform, but you've got to produce events, produce shows. And of course, in this day where everything is happening virtually, he has made the pivot and will be producing our virtual performance, Homecoming, featuring all of the alumni artists from Grambling State University and Southern University, Shreveport. And he is producing the show being directed by Rashonda D. Spears and produced by Brent Latin. And you must mark your calendar for October the 24th. That's Saturday, October 24th, when the virtual performance will debut at 7 p.m. and it runs again in a debut format on Sunday, October 25th at 2 p.m. And his course is all about teaching the technical side, the production side of the artistry. Brent, take us away. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm just so excited to be here for another class. We've had just a wonderful time. The last two classes that I've, I guess, administered, if you want to use that word. So I'm just really excited about what's going on today. So let me go ahead and get my screen sharing going for today's talk. So today we're going to talk a lot about production. And kind of get detailed on some of the best ways to do different things, some of the equipment that's used, and just also solicit any questions or comments just on the production end, because as I state every week, there's just so many different ways to do this. So definitely, I know it'll be a learning experience for who's ever watching, but I'm excited to be learning as well. So let's see if this is going to share. Okay, there we go. All right. So again, the technical side of production. Real quick, I'll introduce myself just in case. I know Jalen is new with us, and if there's anybody else that's been with us for the first time on social media, let's go to me. So this is my family. I always like to start off with them because this is why I do everything that I do. For these three people, my wife Jessica, Alex, 6-year-old, and Bella, 2-year-old, and that's our old family picture. So we actually need, that was 2 years ago. So I need to update that picture. My baby girl legs are probably close to, yeah, they're way longer than that. So we'll make sure that we do that. Just a little bit about me. Born here in Shreveport, Louisiana, raised here in Shreveport. I love our area. Byrd High School graduate 2007. Anybody that know Byrd people or that went to Byrd, they know the pride that we have in that school. I didn't go to Grambling or Suzzla, but I graduated from Louisiana Tech. But at the same time, I did take a class at Grambling, and anybody, especially any person that's African American, if you go to Tech, you're gonna spend a lot of time on Grambling's campus. So I am definitely an honorary social member, if anything. And then just so many things here in our community I've been involved in, and I love our community. So just a little bit about our company, YPE Young Pros Entertainment. We specialize in media marketing and entertainment. But specifically, we're discussing the production end for film or documentaries. That's kind of the vein that we're focusing on. But I'll mention some good things just for if you're trying to shoot commercials, promotional videos, music videos, even if you're looking to produce television shows or live stream, we'll mention some things about that as well. All right, and just a quick snapshot of some projects that we've done here, some that have been more local, some regional, and then some that have had national viewing. But the one that I think is, well, I'll go through them. Foot Switch was a film that we produced from a guy in East Texas. When I Needed You was also something here locally. Cajun Court, that's something that's pretty popular here in our area. That's a television show that has been airing on NBC, V45, Fox, and some other stations around our area for the last 5 years. From Generations to Generation documentary. That documentary was actually, we produced that 6 or 7 years ago, but that was a government contract, a government documentary, and it focused on people in South Louisiana, the Cajun and Zydeco music, and it was based at the John Lafitte National Park in Eunice, Louisiana. So that was an awesome project that took us about 6 months, but it was a great project. Damaged is another short film that we've produced, but then one of the ones that I think is very relevant to our conversations about HBCUs and Suzzla and Grambling is the Eddie Robinson documentary that we produced for the Heritage Group, which is an organization in Shreveport Bossier that does educational consulting. And this video actually is a video that a lot of the freshmen at Grambling they've seen for the last 4 or 5 years, a part of their freshman orientation. So those are just some of the projects, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about production equipment and what is needed. Just like anything else, most times when we think about productions, we always focus on, you know, hey, let's focus on the big stuff. We see the $50,000 cameras, the huge lighting, the huge sound that we see a lot of times on behind the scene coverage for huge films or huge television shows. But it doesn't always take all of that. Actually, me and Fred Moss, we were just talking about that as important it is and cool it is to have all of that high powered equipment. Also some things that you can do as a beginning, an intermediate, and even an advanced filmmaker, to where you don't have to come out $10, $20, $30, $100,000 on equipment. So we're going to discuss just a little bit about those. Let me get back to that portion of the screen. Where am I? There we go. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So production, really at the root of it, all that you really need, and we'll talk about some of the other things that are really needed, but you need a camera, you need sound, and you need lighting. And right now we're talking about just the technical part of production. Now, of course, outside of that, you do need talent. You need someone in front of the camera. If you're doing a short film, you need some great talent. Or if you're doing a documentary, you need to have some great interviewees. But we're just talking about just the root production end. And if you've been with us the other weeks, initially we started out talking about the vision. We started talking about how can you get your vision, or how do you formulate your vision? What are some of the motivating factors for getting your vision where it needs to be? So we talked about writing down that vision. We talked about really sitting down and meditating on what you're trying to do. If it's a short film, how am I going to convey this story? If it's a full feature film, how am I going to convey this story? If it's a documentary, what am I talking about? What historical factors do I need? So talking about just the visionary output, which is always important, because whenever you're looking to do something creative, you have to have that vision first. You have to see it, as a lot of people like to say, with your third eye before you can even see it with your physical eyes. So that's very important. Then in the second master class, we talked about the art of pre-production. Now, pre-production is very important, and that's what's going to lead us back to this discussion about technical production. But pre-production is important because that sets your roadmap to what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how much it's going to cost you, who's going to be involved, who's going to be the team. And we talked about several things in that setting. We talked about making sure that you have a structure for your production company. Even if you're just the writer, you still want to have a legal entity to encompass what your vision is. And then after that, we talked about formulating your team, getting your team together. We talked about, okay, well, look, I know I have a small budget. What roles do I want to play? And who else do I want to get involved? Will I have enough capital to pay them, or do I need to find volunteers? So you want to get your team together. And then we talked about setting your budget, which is very important. And honestly, and people, especially financial managers, they'll tell you, it really doesn't matter how much money you bring in or spend out, it's about management. So the same thing that we have to think about when it comes to different type of productions. We have to think about, okay, what is our budget? If we have a $500 budget, we need to manage that just as well as if we had a $500 million budget. So we have to make sure to be good stewards on that end as well. And that's very important for us because a lot of times as creatives, we really just focus on the creative part, but the pre-production process really invites our business mindset to come in. It invites that right side of our brain to say, hey, look, let's activate that. The first part is the left side saying, look, let's get creative. But the right side is, look, how are we going to make this creative work? And then after getting your budget in the pre-production stage, then you want to make sure that your script and your story is how it needs to be. You want to solicit your talent. You want to look for different talent. And then we get to the standpoint where we are now, which is production. And you may be on this call or on social media and say, okay, well, I'm just a writer. What do I need to know about production? Or I just want to kind of oversee everything. But it's still important to know about production because when you're looking to hire someone or you're looking to, when you do hire someone, you have some type of understanding on what's needed to make your project happen. So first thing we're going to talk about, get back to my screen here. All right, first thing we talked about camera, sound, and lights are very important. That's what we need. So first, let's talk about the different camera options. So I'm not going to necessarily go into, okay, well, look, you got to get a Nikon, or you got to get a Canon, or you got to get a Sony, or you have to get a Panasonic. We're going to talk about, as important that is, or as important as that is, we're going to talk about the different type of cameras that there are and what cameras I believe are best for different situations, just kind of with the experience that I've had. So let's talk about those different cameras. And if, like I said, if there are any questions, I'm going to pull it up on Facebook as well. If there are questions or comments there, please let us know, because like I say, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So I love getting great feedback. So let me pull up this slide here. All right. So here we go. These are some of our different type of cameras. This is, I pulled this from an article from earlier this year, and this was kind of a survey that they did in 2019, just with some filmmakers to kind of see what type of options are out there and what percentage those options are used. So first we're going to go to what I would probably say is the most popular at this point, and it's the DSLR camera. And just to give you, I guess, a little history on my end, I really got into production very early on in life. My parents back in the 80s and 90s, and with my dad even in the early 2000s, they were deeply involved in television in our area. And now that I'm in my 30s, or I'm in my early 30s at 31, a lot of my peers don't necessarily remember when they were involved in television, because that was back when we were little kids. But I grew up around the production, and my mom was a reporter. My dad had his own show for years. So I was around production that entire time. And I tell people, I think, and I see Fred shaking his hand because he knows a lot about that, but then he knows a lot about what I'm about to say next. I think I grew up in the best era being a millennial, because we caught the tail end of the analog stuff and the beginning of the digital stuff. Now I can say I love the digital stuff a lot. It seems like it's a lot easier. Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like digital has made this stuff a lot easier.
Well, I can tell you this. The advantage you have with digital is that you can use a piece back over and over and over again.
Right.
You had to do that in the old days from analog. We have to actually set an in and an out on that same clip over and over again if we wanted to use it. If we wanted to use pieces of that particular film, we had to go back and set an in and an out. And I always tell folks, I'll help you about that, Brent. I always tell people that it's a difference between an old school editor and the new style of editing, because a lot of the new style of editors, they're computer guys, okay? So they don't have that background. You do. So when you look at those edits, and on some edits are kind of choppy. When you see those choppy edits and they just don't flow right, you know what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a computer person, and you know it's the way the edits. It's just a certain way. I can look at a clip and be like, okay, this guy is a newcomer. He's a computer guy that's editing. You got to have the eye for it and the feel for it, because when you're coming from analog to digital, it's the pre-roll that you have to make sure you got enough pre-roll to flow into what you're doing. And that kind of goes into digital too, because you want to make sure you have enough pre-roll when you put that dissolve effect that you have to put in, instead of using a switcher. You know, back in the day, we had to, when they came out with the video toaster, we had to, when we had a dissolve, we had to actually do it with our hands on the machine instead of just doing it with the grabbing the effect, putting it on it. So it's a lot of things that go into that, man. And I never thought that when I moved over from analog to digital, I was like, okay, this is not going to work. I had to get used to it, you know, and it took me a while, but hey, now I'm here. So I'm just waiting for the next plateau. What's going to happen next?
Right. What's going to happen next? What in 15 years, what am I going to be like? Man, we used to do digital. Now we're doing, we don't know. But
I didn't forget about how you came up, but when you said that, I was like, man, that's why your products, your productions are they flow right, because you have that old school and new school vibe.
Right. Yeah.
You answered it.
Right. Yeah, and you know, the crazy thing about it, when I first kind of got into video, I was probably about 9 or 10, messing with my daddy's camera. had one of those big VHS cameras with the VHS.
The dinosaurs.
Right, exactly. And I would say when I turned 12, my sister was playing basketball, one of my first really entrepreneurial opportunities. And this all correlates with what we're talking about today. And at that time, I think maybe Super 8 had been out. This was early 2000s, Super 8. And then those formats had come out at that time, but it was still analog type of approach. But I found some way to hook my dad's big VHS camera to one of those and do some switching. And then I did editing. I had one of those little video laptop makers that you could do a little bit of title in. So I would plug that into the VCR, hit record and do that, and then have somebody else playing another tape and dub that. I mean, it was just crazy to see kind of where we've evolved to now. But I've definitely had my share of experience with every type of video camera that there is. So there are definitely some pros and cons with that. But let's look back at this chart. So type of cameras that filmmakers use as their primary camera at this point. So we were going back to the DSLR, which, like I say, I think right now, especially with a lot of smaller productions and even most productions that we do, we're going to shoot on a DSLR camera. And it's crazy now, you know, they're very affordable. And even some of the ones that are $400 or $500, they have, I mean, they look great. Let's just say what they look great. Now, of course, they don't have all of the capabilities, maybe like a $5,000 or $10,000, $15,000 camera, but they look great. They really look great. So that's one of the more popular options are the DSLR cameras that you can get from pretty much any digital type of store. If it's a Best Buy, I think even Walmart sells some of them as well. So you have your DSLRs. All right. So after DSLR, next, let's go to, so at this point, earlier this year or late last year, 18% of filmmakers were using DSLR cameras. Then we have the DSLM, which is basically similar to DSLR, but these are mirrorless cameras. So these cameras have a different type of feel when it comes to how it works with the lens. A lot of times with these cameras, you don't have the same clicking that you have with other cameras or other DSLR cameras. So these are very popular. The mirrorless system, they're very popular. That's actually what we use now are digital mirrorless cameras, and they work well. Then you'll see on there, you'll see the biggest chunk. And remember, these are filmmakers just everywhere. So these are all type of budgets, but a lot of these have some of the larger budgets as well. So you'll see the digital cinema cameras. Now these cameras, they cost a little bit more than your DSLRs or even your DSLMs. Like I say, DSLRs, you can start off in the hundreds with those. But the DSLMs, you're going to start off, normally to get to the good ones, you're going to get to at least about $1,500 to about $2,000. But then the digital cinema cameras, a lot of times these cameras, you're going to buy the body, and the body may be $4,000 or $5,000, but then you got to get a lens that's going to be another $1,500, $2,000. So these cameras definitely do great. I mean, they're great, but they cost more. So if you're somebody just starting out, this is not the camera that you want to go looking at initially, because it'll blow your mind, the price on these cameras. I mean, these prices range from like I say, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 onwards up to $80,000, $90,000. So you just have to see what works best for you and your budget. So then after you get to the digital cinema, so that was 46%. Then we have the professional camcorders. And professional camcorders, and I kind of go through kind of what cameras work in different situations. But professional camcorders, a lot of people do still use those for filmmaking and documentaries. I know for me, that's usually not the route that I want to go with a professional camcorder, but I'll tell you why here in a second. And then the other two, it's a crazy percentage of people, but it actually works. They actually do documentaries or film on their phones. And if you really research film and a lot of things that have come out the last several years, you will find a few films or documentaries to where people actually use their cell phones. Yes, their cell phones. Now they did some things to make sure that their cell phone was optimal for that, but that just comes to show you that in the year of 2020, or in this era of time, you can do some great work with any type of device. And then lastly, 2%, we have the consumer camcorder. Those are usually your camcorders that you may find. You might find some in Walmart, and Best Buy sells some. They said, I want to say they might sell maybe 1 or 2 professional camcorders, but they sell a lot of consumer camcorders as well. But those are also used for filmmaking. So like I stated, definitely DSLRs are kind of more popular than anything else. Those and the mirrorless cameras, and they are, like I say, much more affordable. You can really get those on for good prices. And DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, they're really good for so many different things. Not only documentaries or film, they're good for commercials, promo videos. If we have anybody on here that, wants to, do music videos, they are good for all of those different type of productions. And like I stated earlier, you can start off with a $400, $500, $600 Canon T7i or T5i or any of those brands, and actually get very good video footage. So I tell everybody, don't allow those big budget films and all of that to really affect you, because with the right equipment, you can definitely do some good stuff. So we also saw on there the professional camcorders and also the consumer camcorders. I know me personally, I normally like using camcorders more for continuous shooting. You'll figure out a lot of the DSLRs, especially a lot of the ones that are under $1,000, they can only record for a certain amount of time continuously. So if you're looking to shoot something that may be 2 or 3 hours and you have to shoot that continuously all the way, those type of cameras may not be best for that. We do a lot of streaming. If it's an event, or if it's a sporting event, we do a lot of streaming. So when we stream, we always use the camcorders, because they're going to have that automatic focus that's very quick. They're going to be able to stay on a whole lot longer than your DSLRs. That's something else about DSLRs, and even some mirrorless cameras, which mirrorless cameras, I say that they are a little bit better when it comes to autofocus, especially on the lower end of those type of cameras. But DSLRs, when it comes to autofocus, sometimes they can be a little difficult, especially some of the more starter ones. So I always advise somebody, if you're looking to do something more continuous, you definitely want to use a camcorder for that versus using a DSLR. Now, the mirrorless cameras, they do a little bit better on the continuous focus. So like I say, those two are really good for promos and stuff like that, but camcorders for your continuous shooting. But right now, I know we're focusing more on documentary and film. So yes, look at those DSLRs, look at those mirrorless cameras, and see what works best for you. Another option that you always have, and we've used this option throughout the years, because we've worked on all different types of budget for film, but some of them, we had to rent a camera. We had to rent, I know for Foot Switch, we rented a C500, which at that time, the camera body by itself, I believe, I know for sure it was between $7,000 to $10,000, just the camera body. And when we refer to the camera body, we're not talking about the lens that you're able to zoom in and zoom out or focus. We're talking just about the camera body itself without a lens. So at that time, that was way outside of our budget to spend that much money on a camera, plus having to get a lens for it. And like I say, for those type of cameras, the lens that you get may be another, easily at least $1,000 easily, and that may even be used. But you're talking for a center lens, you're talking $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 just for a lens. So that's something else that you can always do. And like I say, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. But you can always look to rent equipment as well. Renting equipment is just one of the things. There's so many different websites to rent equipment, but specifically cameras. You can definitely rent cameras. Did you have something?
Well, that was gonna be my next thing about renting, especially on those lenses, because sometimes you can get lenses that cost more than the camera.
Right.
So I think the renting thing nowadays is a good thing. And I know you were talking about cameras and stuff. Even when it comes to cameras now, You know, if there's a particular camera you want to try out, if the project is big enough for you to rent you a camera that you can keep for a week or so, do it. So you can play with stuff and have a different look, you know. Don't be stuck with what you just have, you know, because eventually you're gonna want to buy another camera. And now you're fortunate enough to be able to do what? Rent that camera before you buy it.
Right, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is yeah, I mean that's just awesome. I see one of my good production friends, Jose Cadero, on here. He commented 7 minutes ago, mirrorless, baby. Yeah, mirrorless cameras are awesome. They've really become, I would say, in style, for lack of a better word, I'd probably say the last 3 or 4 years, 4 to 5 years maybe, because they're a little bit, and then they don't have the mirrorless cameras. Like I say, with the lenses, they don't take as long to autofocus a lot of times, and they don't have the same mechanical movement as a lot of the DSLRs. Do. But at the end of the day, you always have to see what works best for you, what works best for your budget, what works best for your functionality, what works best for the project that you're looking to do, and decide to use a camera there. And then even once you get the larger budget, you can say, just like Fred just mentioned, you can go to borrowlens.com, or, I mean, there are so many different sites to where you can borrow cameras. But now let me go back to, let me put a little addendum in there, kind of what we've been talking about in some of the other master classes. You want to make sure that you have your LLC for that reason, because to rent those different things, you have to have insurance. And sometimes you can purchase insurance from them directly, but trust me, you would rather go ahead and have your business stuff in order and get an insurance policy in place that allows you to rent equipment than to spend $700 or $800 one time just with them, so that you don't mess up their stuff. All right. So we talked about just the different type of cameras. We talked about mirrorless, DSLR, consumer camcorders, professional camcorders, cell phones, and let me put in there, I didn't say it before, cell phones and iPads, tablets. There have been some things shot on tablets. And then your cinema cameras, which are the cameras that any video person dreams of. Those are your cameras that give you everything that you want, that are great in low light, and all of those different type of things. So we talked about some camera options. So let's just talk about just a few kind of techniques when it comes to filming, if it's documentaries or if it's a film. There are different techniques and ways that you want to shoot. And to kind of go off of master class number 2, we talked about assembling your team and having a director of photography. That director of photography would be the person that says, okay, well, look, in this scene, we want to shoot a wide shot, or we want to shoot a tight shot. So let's just say we have some, okay, that was Jose. Let me go back to what he said real quick. He said, I'm balling on a budget, but I feel like my craft and focus for promos does great for me. You're definitely hitting everything that needs to be spoken on. Man, thank you so much for that feedback, because he is an awesome, as Fred is, he's an awesome video production guy in our area. So just to hear that from one of my peers is awesome. But kind of going back to the different shot techniques that you have. And let me take one more step back. I missed some. That's why I had to take notes. In talking about different cameras, something else that we need to put in there is also aerial coverage. And we can also stick underwater coverage in there too. There are certain cameras that are able to get aerial coverage, and that's just a fancy word for drone cameras. I just like to say, when I want to be a little fancy, I say aerial footage or aerial coverage. But definitely drones are awesome. It's amazing that I always tell this story with drones, and I know Fred would know more about this, but I'm pretty sure 15 or 20 years ago, and probably even 10 years ago or so, if you wanted to get a drone shot of a location, you would have to rent a helicopter, or probably even an airplane. You probably have to get one of those, get a camera up there, grab that footage that you need, and then descend. And I know one time we were getting some footage for a company, for a helicopter company. So we were getting some footage for them, so they weren't charging us that. But I asked them, how much was it just for a flight just around the city, or just a few miles? And he told me $1,500. This had nothing to do with anything else but the flight. So drones are awesome. And you're able to see a view that honestly, you've probably never seen before. A lot of times, even if you get on a airplane, you don't get to see a lot between being in the clouds and liftoff. So aerial coverage is awesome. And when it comes to cameras and video production, that's very important, because that alone will elevate your video. I tell people 2 or 3 times, because that's a drone shot. That's something that a lot of people may never get to see, that angle, that vantage point. So that's very important. And then also, which I hadn't done too much of, we've just done a little bit of this, but underwater videography as well. You want to see some different camera options for that. And there are just so many different options for cameras. You have Canon, you have Nikon, you have Sony, you have Panasonic, you have Blackmagic, you have Aria, you have GoPros, you have DJI, and I know I'm missing some other ones. Osmos, well, DJI Osmo. There are just so many different options that you have for cameras. And I know you might be saying, well, how can this help me out with a film or documentary? One good thing, you'll be able to get a different vantage point. You know, let's just say you're covering a documentary about, you know, a national park. Let's just put that out. And you have all these great ground shots, but then you go to an aerial shot showing the park 200 feet in the air, or 100 feet in the air, 150 feet in the air. So it's just a different vantage point. The same thing with the underwater cameras. Those are awesome, because then you're able to see another view that you may not be able to see unless you get underwater and open your eyes, and then you can't do it that long anyway. So you're able to just get some good vantage points. But I brought those back up for this very point to talk about just different camera techniques. And if there is anybody on here that doesn't, I know Fred knows this, I know Jose knows this, and probably some other people, but just understanding a wide shot and a tight shot. So a wide shot, and let me see if I can kind of display it. A wide shot is normally when you get, and I'm not framed right, but I'll try my best. A wide shot, when you get somebody and they're far away. A tight shot is when you get up on them, okay? And I know me personally, when we do, especially when we're doing documentaries and film, I really like tight, intimate shots. Those shots sell. When you get those tight shots, you get the shots that really show what's going on, especially when you get different shots from different angles. So I'm one of those tight shot people. I'm like, look, get that intimate shot. Get that shot that's really going to sell it. Let's just say if you're doing a documentary and somebody says something phenomenal, you want to get that tight shot on them while they're saying that, because there's so much draw video-wise. I always tell a lot of my church people, video is so important, and the different angles that you show are very important, because there's spiritual implications with video. Just think about how you connect with a movie or a show or the emotions of someone. Well, look, let's go to sports. Let's go to sports. If you were watching the game 6 yesterday with the Lakers and the Heat, I promise you would have been disappointed if they would have just had one wide camera angle the whole game. They never showed any of the expressions on any of the players' faces. They never showed any of the coaches. They never showed any of those intimate moments. So tight shots really bring those type of moments on. But wide shots are awesome as well. You definitely want to get some, and me, I always like, I tell my team and people that I work with, I always like a diversity of shots. I want to get some tight shots, some of those intimate shots, but then look, let's get some wide shots. Let's show these people how this person really looks. Let's show some wide shots. But then too, we have some other type of camera techniques that really help to pull in. We have different dolly shots. We have different gimbal shots. We have different panning shots, different tilting shots. One of the shots that I love is just when you zoom in, you dolly in on somebody when they're saying something prolific. That does so much video-wise. And understanding the cameras that you have, the lenses that you have, and understanding how you need to combine that with the story is very important when it comes to the production end of what you're looking to do. Because you want to be able to really pull out everything that you need to pull out. And you need the camera for that. But most of all, you need the different type of techniques for that. And that really in itself, camera techniques could almost be a whole masterclass in itself, just because there are so many different ways to do this for documentaries and film. And you want to have that type of person on your team that has an eye for that, because that's very important. You want to have a person that says, okay, well, look, I can see this. I see your vision and I'm able to work with your vision and I really see how we can make this happen. So those are just some different camera techniques. Let's talk about frame rates as well. That's something that's very technical, but can be very important. It can be very important. One thing about filming now that we have so many different frame rates. We have 24 frames per second. We have 30 frames per second. We have 60 frames per second. And even some cameras have 120. So you might say, okay, so what's important? What's important for what? Now, 24 frames, that's my go-to look for a lot of things, because that's more of your film frame rate. If you really experiment with your cameras and different things, you put it on 24. I'm not going to say it looks like slow motion, but it just has that more film type of pull with it. But then you go to 60p or 60i, you go to 60 frames per second. 60 frames is going to have that look to where everything is just almost just real continuous, real smooth type of look. So what we like to use 60 frames for, or even if we go down and we go down to HD and go to 120 frames per second, that's really good for slow motion. So you would say, why is that good for slow motion? So that represents the FPS, the frames per second. So basically what that's saying, that every second, if you have it on 24 frames per second, that's saying that every second your camera is capturing 24 pictures per second, okay? So that's, like I say, that's great for that film look. That's great for that type of look. But then if you on 60 frames per second, I'm sorry, your camera is catching 60 pictures per second. But then if you're on 120 FPS, your camera is catching 120 pictures per second. So when it's time for slow motion, you want as many frames as you can get. Oh, so that's always just very important to really see what's best for your different production. If you're looking to do a film, 24 is probably where you want to be, unless you're looking to put in some slow motion in some of your shots. Then for those slow motion shots, you want to make sure that you're at 60 frames per second. You want to make sure that you're matching up. And that's what a good DP, director of photography, does for your project. They're able to really say, okay, well, look, these shots, we want to shoot these at 24. We want to shoot this wide. We want to shoot this tight. We want to do a side profile here. We want to do straight on here. Or they're able to say, okay, look, we want to do this shot slow-mo, so let's go to 60 frames per second, or let's go to 120. But I know you're saying, well, what if I have a small budget and I don't have a DP? Well, that's why you're here, so that you're also understanding these different parameters when it's coming to the technical side of film and the technical side of production, to where you can say, okay, well, look, I don't have a budget for a DP. I am the DP, I'm the script writer, I'm the lighting person, I'm all of that. So I need to understand some of these other terminologies since I don't have the capabilities of having that type of tool. Go ahead, Fred.
We got a break coming up soon.
Okay, got a break coming up soon. Okay, good.
You got let's see.
Well, let me mention this real quick about camera techniques. We talked about frames per second and what's really cool with that. Also, with your different type of cameras, you have 3 parameters that are very important, especially when you're looking to really to shoot manually, which is what I normally recommend shooting manually, because you're able to make sure things aren't going out of whack. And actually 4, I said 3, but 4. But you have your aperture, you have your shutter speed, and then you have your ISO/gain. Depending on what type of camera, you may see ISO. Normally on your DSLRs and your mirrorless cameras, and some of the more cinematic cameras, you're going to see more ISO. But then on your camcorders, and even there are a few DSLRs and other cameras, but definitely camcorders, you're going to see gain. But ISO and gain have similarities in the way that they affect the overall picture. It increases or decreases the overall, let's see how we want to put this, the light that the camera is adding in. But your aperture and the shutter speed, your aperture is actually how much light you're allowing into your camera. So that's very important. Aperture, whenever you see a shot of somebody where they're totally in focus, but the background is blurred out, that means that there is a very low aperture, very low aperture. So aperture is very important for different film and documentaries, depending on what you're looking to do. Shutter speed is important as well. Shutter speed really kind of affects your motion. If you have a lot of fast going motion, you're going to want a higher shutter speed. But if you're looking to do, like if you're just doing a documentary or a film or something like that, you know, a lower shutter speed is okay. And one of the rule of thumbs that we go by is that we want our shutter speed to be 2 times our frame per second. So if you have a shutter speed of 24 frames per second, if you have a frame rate of 24 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 150. Most cameras are going to do 150. Some do 148, but you're going to do 150. If you are looking to shoot slow motion and you have 60 frames per second, you're going to want your shutter speed on, yeah, you got it right, 2 times your frame per second. So you're going to want 120. And most cameras, they'll do 125. So that's something else real important just on camera techniques. And then there's so many other things, but I know it's time for a break. So let me go ahead, Pam, let's go ahead, go into our break, and then we'll talk about lighting and audio.
All righty, that sounds great. While you're on break, I'm going to run for just one moment. I'm going to share the screen and show our video that we missed earlier. Here we go. All right, Grant, we'll give everybody about 2 or 3 more minutes. All righty. All right, we think we're ready to go again?
Yes,
Let's just acknowledge Jalen and anyone else there that's looking for any kind of school credit for participating. Please put your name and your email in the chat. And if you have a professor looking out for you, go ahead and put the name of your professor. That would be great. I have put the survey in the chat, and the survey link is for the evaluation for tonight's program. Once again, if you're a student participating, you're going to want to complete your survey, and we'll get it to your faculty member so they can know you were here. That's terrific. And you want to mark your calendar for Friday, October the 23rd, at which time we'll be having the opening of the exhibition curated by Eric Francis and featuring visual artists from Southern University Shreveport and Grambling State University. Then Saturday belongs to Brent Lattin and Rashonda D. Spears, when you'll have a chance to see the debut, the premiere of the virtual live performance, live streamed performance, starting that Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m., the finale of our work here. But it won't be over just because it's a finale. The final night is when Brent and Rashonda come together on Monday, October the 26th, and share the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the woes, and the triumphs of what it means to do a virtual live stream performance. Here's Brent. Thank you.
awesome, Pam. Thank you so much. And we are looking. I mean, we've been working very hard on this project, and we still have a lot more work to go. But we are excited about what we will present to everybody, to the world, not just to Suzzla or Grambling, but to the world. And I'm excited to be a part of this masterclass experience as well. So as we've been talking about today, we're talking about the art of production. And if I wanted to say on a scale of 1 to 10 how deep we're getting today, we're probably like on a 4 or 5. I mean, we could talk about this production stuff literally probably all the way to next week. And just go nonstop. There are so many different factors and so many different things. And after doing it, at this point, I will say all my life, but more in a professional setting for nearly 10 years, there are just so many things that I've seen that have worked, that haven't worked, so many ways to troubleshoot, so many ways to avoid roadblocks that, you know, I could really talk about this all day. But let's get back to what we're talking about today. We're talking about
anyone that started out editing from a dinosaur camera to a switcher has been doing it all their lives. Okay, so don't stop being modest.
Man, but it's definitely a joy to do, and like I say, just being around all these creatives. One of my good friends, Pastor Theron Jackson, said to me years ago, he said the closest thing to God is creating. So it's just awesome to be on this project and talk about one of my favorite art styles. And as Pam mentioned earlier, I'm talking about video production and film, but I love it all. I'm a musician, been a musician my entire life. So I love just that creative process. But let's get back to the production needed or the production equipment needed for a great production. And again, even if you aren't one of those technical people looking to do the actual filming and producing on that end, you still need to know some of these things so that you know who to look out for. And even once they're doing this, you can kind of be the person that checks up, hey, okay, do we have that right setting? All of that type of stuff. So it's very important. So after we talk about the camera, we talked about different brands. We talked about different styles of cameras. We talked about what's used more often in film and documentary, what camera is best for an event versus what camera is best for a promotional video or film. Now we're going to get to something that's very, very, very important, and that's going to be our sound. So we went through camera options, but now we're going to go through our different sound options. All right, so since we're really focusing on more documentary film, I put this one up, but we're gonna talk about some other avenues to capture great audio. And let me say this first: audio is very important. A lot of people think, hey, I want my primary focus to be video, which is, of course, extremely important. But I tell people all the time, you can have in $100,000 or a $100,000 camera and have horrible audio quality, and your production will look horrible. Or you could have a $300 or $400 camera. You can have your cell phone and you have great audio. I promise you, most people will want to navigate to that because the sound is good. So with that being said, sound is extremely important. It's very important. So let's talk about these two first that we have up. Go ahead, Fred. You did something?
Oh,
okay. So let's talk about the lavalier mic first. Let's talk about the lavalier mic. Lavalier mics are awesome. They're pretty simple to use. There are a lot of different options that you have for lavalier microphones. Definitely for any type of interviews or capturing audio from that standpoint, they are perfect. They are perfect mics to use. And of course, one of the places that you probably see them a lot is are your newscasters. You go on any news show or whatever on any of the stations, and you'll see most, I say most of the time, but 99% of the time, they're going to have a lavalier microphone. All right. So those are very good microphones to use. Like I said, they're easy to use. Cost-wise, you're able to find some that are a little bit cheaper, some that are more. You have some lavalier mics that you can connect directly to the camera, but then the more popular ones are the wireless ones. You have lavalier mics to where they have a wireless receiver and transmitter, which is clutch when you're on the go, when you're moving around. That's clutch because then you don't have to worry about plugging in that receiver anywhere. So there's just so many different options. So you have your lavalier mic. All right, and also with lavalier microphones, you can also use those for even for different film, as far as if you're looking to shoot a short film or a feature film, where you can actually hide it. You can hide the lavalier microphone in a shirt, in a bra, in an undershirt, in a jacket, to where you can't even see it. So lavalier mics are great. So then we're going to talk, and we'll go deep into them here in a second. But then we have your shotgun mics. Shotgun mics are great as well. I love shotgun mics. They have great sound. They're perfect for interviews, for documentaries. They're also perfect for film as well. They're even great to just put on your camera, just to have sitting on your camera to get better audio. Shotgun mics they're great. They're great. I can't say anything bad about shotgun mics. Some other options that you have, and we'll talk more about specifically with video versus music and all of that, but some other options that you have just your normal dynamic microphones where a person holds a mic. That's very relevant. A lot of times when people are doing interviews, especially on the news, if they're doing a mobile interview and they're interviewing somebody else, you don't want to have to take a live mic and say, hey, let me take this live out and put this on you. No, you'll have a mic, then you put the mic in front of them. So a dynamic microphone is great as well. And then you also have some other condenser microphones. Those are great for voiceovers, which is of course befitting in different things that we're looking to do if it's a documentary or a film. So voiceover is great for the condenser microphones. And normally condenser microphones, you'll associate those more with what you see in a recording studio. The larger diaphragm, that's what that's called, the larger diaphragm type of microphones. Those are perfect, perfect for that. So I would say probably from a professional standpoint, those are going to be your options, with it mostly going to be the shotgun mic or the lavalier mic. So now let's get into, and like I say, this is my personal preference. And I know a lot of other professionals probably share it as well, but I'm just going to kind of speak on what I like to do and what has really worked out for me since doing production. So lavalier microphones. I love lavalier microphones because of their ease. So like I said, a lot of lavaliers, they have it to where there's a wireless transmitter and receiver. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the pack that you put on the person and then the pack that hooks into the camera. There are a lot of options, affordable options for wireless lavalier sets. One of my favorite ones that I'm glad we invested in, and it only is a couple $100 bucks. Rode has, and let me see if I can pull it up, because this is perfect for a person on any budget because it's really cost effective. Let me pull up, but it's a Rode wireless lavalier set. So with this set, and it's called the Rode Wireless Go. And this is a great microphone set because not only can you hook microphones to it, the actual transmitter itself is a microphone. So you're able to use it in a few different facets. So this microphone right here, it's $200 or so. You're able to hook in a lavalier microphone to it, but you're also able just to use, you can see where my mouse is pointing to, you're able just to use just that as a microphone. And I've had this for like probably about the last year or so, and it works phenomenally. And like I say, if you're not worried about showing the microphone, lavalier microphones are the best. Easy to use, and they'll get the job done. And even with this specific Rode mic that I have up, and like I say, I'm showing this microphone because it's very affordable. So even if you have a small budget, you can afford it. But with that microphone, you're able to just have somebody hold it, and you make sure your shot doesn't show them holding that little microphone, and it captures great audio. But now, well, let me go ahead and talk about the shotgun mic and when I like the shotgun mic, and then we'll talk about some microphone techniques as well. So the next thing is the shotgun microphone. And when I tell you I love this shotgun microphone, also referred to when you see it on a pole, a boom pole microphone. And I think I have that on my slideshow for us to see that. But called a, no, that's like, okay, so, okay, this right here, let me blow it up so we can see it. This is called a boom mic. And the reason it's called a boom mic is because the person that has it, they have what we call a boom arm. And there's some other words to use, but I always like to use boom arm. And this is when you'll see on different shows or different productions where somebody has it and they're holding it up and they're putting it up above somebody. That's called a boom mic. But all a boom mic is essentially is a shotgun mic. That's what it is, a shotgun mic. The boom is more talking about how you're doing the microphone. But anyway, I love boom or shotgun mics, boom mics, whichever term you want to use, because they have great audio. But then these microphones aren't visible. So then you can have a cleaner shot. It doesn't look like the person has anything on them because they don't. So I love shotgun microphones and using them for, I mean, almost any type of production. Go ahead, Fred. You're still muted.
I have something to add in. With those shotgun mics, I live by them. So most of the time I'm doing a lot of stuff one-on-one. So I've actually purchased a boom mic stand.
Yes.
It's actually a twofold because you can use it. It's the big silver ones. You can use them as light stands also. But I went on and purchased it. It was like $185, but it was worth it. And I bought the boom mount for it. And if I tell you, that's how I do my documentaries, music videos. I live by that boom mic.
Yes, sir.
Because it's kind of hard for you to find people to stand there and hold that mic for you the way you did. Now, I can tell you, you are the first person I saw use the actual boom mic stands that we use in audio. You know, I saw that and I said, wait a minute, he's using the actual mic stand.
Right.
Boom mic stand for that. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So I used that, but I also bought one of those extenders. And then, you know, it can go way up low, it can go high, or it can go real low. And that's what I live by. I love it.
Yeah, and that's just a testimony. Yeah, the boom mics, and like you say, it just gives you those clean shots, and the audio is just, you know, amazing on them. And when I first got into, well, I would say when I was younger, before I really understood production like I do now, I just couldn't understand for the life of me how on like television sitcoms they were able to get such great audio, but there was no microphone on them at all. And you could really tell because if it was a sitcom to where somebody was shirtless, you know, a guy didn't just have a shirt on at all, but it's still great audio quality. It's really no way to hide that on somebody's body and they have no shirt on or anything. But we know they have certain sound stations, but a lot of times what they use on a lot of those sitcoms and majority of your movies and different things like that are those boom mics. And they have some of the mics that are more expensive to where that mic can be pretty far away from you and still capture your audio great. But yeah, like you say, yeah, having that boom pole and having that's going to get you some great audio quality. And like you say, for your documentaries or for your sit down interviews, when you have somebody statically there, you can do like Fred said, have a stand. If you're looking to do a film, and honestly, I'll even tell you this a little bit about a film and doing sound for a lot of films. I actually prefer the technique of putting a live, hiding a live, and then having a shotgun or a boom mic as well. Because I'm kind of like Facebook. I like that, or you like our emails, the two-factor authentication. I think that's how it said or whatever. To where it's two ways how you can get into your account. I always like to have two ways to capture the audio, just in case one doesn't work. Because in production, and Fred will tell you, sometimes stuff just doesn't. It's computer stuff or it's technology. Sometimes something doesn't work.
Sometimes
or if you
mic a bumper be bumping against a chest.
right.
The hair could be hitting the mic. All kind of little things can happen. So you always got to have that backup plan when it comes to the sound.
Yes. Yes.
You can never have too many mics.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's always important. Sometimes you want to employ both of those techniques, depending on what you're doing. So let's talk about just some audio techniques. One thing I tell people, and I've been working with audio a long time. We also house a recording studio that is almost finished renovating, so we're excited about that. But audio is normally going to be about proximity. Now, the better the mic you have, the better that it can be. And shotgun and boom mics actually you can kind of do a little bit better as far as not being as close. But proximity is always going to be your friend when it comes to audio. And a good way to figure this out is to, hey, play with your microphone. Test your microphone, miking somebody. Let's see, if you mic them at the bottom of their shirt and they're talking, you will see that there will be a big difference if you have a live mic close to the bottom than if you have it pinned right here. You will see a huge difference, So I always tell people that I'm training or that I'm working with, I'm saying that, when it comes to audio, proximity is important. Another reason that's important is because, especially with some of the more affordable microphones, I'll say it like that, they have a little bit more noise. So the closer you put that microphone to the subject, and when you get ready to crank it up, the less noise you have to worry about having, because the subject matter is so loud in the microphone. Now, we don't want them to peak, and that's a whole nother conversation. But as far as having a good signal, you don't want to have it to where you got to crank up the volume so much to where you get all of that noise. You want that signal to be very good. And this is with a lavalier or a shotgun mic. Like I say, with a shotgun mic or boom mic, you do have a little bit more to play around with, but that's very important, the way that you mic people. And a lot of people, and Fred will tell you, if you're interviewing two different people, let's just say I'm interviewing somebody and they're sitting right here. I don't want to, and let's just say I have on a jacket, and I should have brought a jacket to put on. You don't want to mic me over here, because I'm going to be talking and concentrating over here. You want to mic me on the side that I'm going to talk a lot on. So the same for this person that's going to be sitting with me. You want to mic them on closer to their left side, because that's which way they're going to be turned. Now, if you do make the mistake and mic them the other way, it won't be horrible a lot of times, especially if you have some pretty decent microphones, but it just won't be optimal. And in production, we always want the optimal sound or the optimal look with our different productions. Also, too, when it comes to sound, and this is if you're using a lavalier mic or boom mic, you want to make sure to have a windscreen, and even more when you're outside, if there is some wind, you want to have what's called a wind cat. And I'm going to pull that up for the shotgun microphones. And then there's even a more expensive option that I hadn't really used too much because it's a little bit more expensive, but I know I'll be getting that pretty soon. But let me show you all what a wind cat looks like. This helps to, when you're outside, so where if there is a lot of wind, you don't get all of that wind noise in your shotgun microphone. Let me pull that up and get an image, because I want us to know what that is. Uh-oh, there we go. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. But these are just some very important techniques, because sometimes you may have to shoot outside. You may have to shoot a scene outside and you need that audio from outside. and you want to make sure that the audio is good. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of wind in that audio. So let me just show you on Google just a few different examples of what we call wind cats or dead cats as well. So these right here, I'm pretty sure you've seen some probably in some productions or something, but these help to alleviate wind noise when you're recording outside and able to attenuate, which is another audio term, attenuate that very aggressive wind when you're outside. And these things work amazing. You'll just have your microphone just kind of out bare and you're trying to record and you hear all this wind coming through, and then you put one of those on and it's almost like it's peace in the middle of a storm. You know, you're hearing wind, but when you put your headphones on and you're listening to the sound, you're like, wow. So that's very important for outside audio techniques. So like I told us earlier, sound is just very important because you want to make sure your sound is great, because your great sound will make any type of, and when I say any type of video, it has to be decent video, but it will definitely make that video look good, and bad sound will always mess that up. So let's ask this, what are some good sound recorders? A lot of times, like I showed you those Rode mics, you're able to hook those into most DSLRs. It takes a 1/8 of an inch cable and you're able to hook that directly in. But then too, if you're looking to do where you need to use multiple mics, or you're looking to use lavalier and boom mics, you're going to want to get an audio recorder, a portable audio recorder. One of my favorites that I've had for years is the Zoom H6. The Zoom H6. So let me pull that up. This thing has done so much production-wise over the past, I think maybe 4 or 5 years since we've had it. It's one of the investments that you can make audio-wise, and it actually comes with a couple of mics. And now they have this cool black color. But this is one of the best, and they have different ones some that are even more affordable. But you definitely want to get an external audio recorder, and these are great. Because you can hook different type of microphones in them. With this specific recorder, you're able to hook an XLR cable, 1/4 inch, and they have an adapter to where you can put 1/8 of an inch in there with one of their adapters as well. So you want to have that for audio. This records the SD card as well. And a lot of times when you're looking to really do your short film or your films, you want to have a person that's just focused on the audio, to where they're not worried about the video, they're not worried about that, they're just focused on the audio. They're there to make sure that the levels don't go too hot. They're there to make sure that the mic's proximity is good. They're there just to make sure that everything sounds great. Fred, did you have something?
I actually have those recorders too. I live by those. Those are awesome.
They are.
Especially when you're using your audio for your DSL cameras. That really comes in handy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're perfect. And we even use those Zooms for different events and weddings. What we'll do at the reception when the best man is about to do his toast, we'll take a 1/4 inch cable and hook it up to the mixer that maybe the band is using, or whatever way we need to get that good audio in there. And we'll put that in there, and it elevates a wedding video, because now you have audio assets that you can put somewhere, have that person talking, then show a whole lot of different. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. I love it, but you're able just to really get some good audio, and audio will sell every single time. All right, y'all. So we got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to spend just a little bit of time, and this is something that I'm still learning, and I'm one of those very transparent people. Lighting. In some productions, we even bring in people for lighting, but this is just something I'm gonna kind of give just what's good for 99% of production. So let's talk about some lighting. Let me get back to my PowerPoint with the remaining time that we have left, because as well, lighting is extremely important. And if you have your sound, your video, and your lighting, you can make a great production. And honestly, I want to say you got to have a $10,000 budget. I'd be lying to you. I want to say you got to have a $5,000 budget. No, you just need to have good video, good audio, and good lighting. All right. So lighting options. So first, let's talk about, before we get into the three-point lighting, let's talk about the first available light that everyone has access to. in film and production, we like calling it God's light. And technically, there's no better light than God's light. We're talking about the sun. We're talking about the sun. Now, there are some limitations sometimes with the sun that we have to kind of be careful with. And I'll talk about that as well when we talk about some of the techniques. But the sun can be one of your best friends when it comes to great lighting. Some of the best camera phone videos are when somebody is sitting in front of their window at home, in front of a door, and they're letting that light from that door hit them, and it creates just great lighting. So that's free lighting. If you can find a window, if you can find a door, you already have some of the best lighting that you can have. And honestly, anything else is going to be artificial. But that's fine, because you will need some of the artificial lighting as well. So, all right, so you have sunlight, but then there are so many different options, and actually so many different affordable options for lighting. Now what's very popular, and it's been popular for a while, but it's still very affordable, are LED lights. I mean, you can get a set of very good newer LED lights, a 3-kit light set that we can implement once we talk about the 3-point lighting system. You can get a set of those for under $200. Great lights. I'm telling you, just great type of lighting. So that's definitely an investment that you want to make. At this point in the game, you can have $1,000 and get some really good equipment to create a documentary or a film. After you get that equipment, all you need is your eye, your vision. So, but again, lighting is very important. You don't want to have a situation to where, especially when it comes to visuals that are like interviews and stuff like that. Now, sometime in film, you want the person to not be as lit because it may bring on a cinematic view. Or even sometimes for live productions, you may have great lighting on the stage, but the person gets into a more shadowy spot. That's okay, because they're going to come back into light. But for documentaries and interviews, you want to make sure that you have them well lit, because you want to be able to see those expressions on their face. So lighting is extremely important. Also, when it comes to lighting, a lot of these LED lights, they have different temperatures. And if you're not familiar with temperatures, definitely look that up on YouTube. Light, when it comes to light, and when it comes to color, temperatures are very important. So these lights have different intensities, but also different temperatures. So basically, the higher the number of the temperature is, the kind of more orange it tends to get. So we call that it warms up. It gets more yellowy, orange, kind of goldy. But then the lower the number, the more kind of bluish it kind of gets. So we call that more of a cool type of look. And this is also important because when you're looking to do your productions, this is going to decide what type of feel you want. Do you want a warm feel? Do you want a cool film? So, and when I say film, I'm talking about as far as the look. Do you want it to be a little bit more coolish, a little bit blue, or you want more of those warm type of tones in there? So that's very important. But LED lighting is very affordable at this point. So you can get some very good lights for very cost effective at this point. So with your different lighting options, let's talk about the 3-point lighting. This is pretty much like the go-to. This is the standard type of lighting that most people use when they're lighting somebody, if it's for an interview or if it's for a promotional video. Now, this is not always how it goes, because sometimes you may not want to do the 3-point lighting, but this is just kind of one of the ones that a lot of people do from time to time. So you have your key light. Your key light is going to be that main light that you have on your subject. And honestly, in some productions, the key light is the only light. That's your main light. It's going at 100%. It's hitting the person. And depending on what type of feel you want, you might just use a key light. All right, then after your key light, then you have your fill light. I would say this is the second light that you want to look at doing, is your fill light. That helps to fill in some of the shadows on the face. The key light's coming in, but it helps to fill in some of the shadows. And then you have your backlight. And sometimes you may just have your key and your fill light. Or sometimes you may have your key and your backlight. Or sometimes you may have your fill and your backlight. And there are even some situations to where you may just do a fill light, or you may just do a backlight. So that's just very important depending on how you want your production to look. That's really where that comes down to, how you want your production to look. And another thing that I definitely want to bring up before we close is, again, shooting outside. Like I said earlier, you do have God's light. But sometimes if the sun is too bright, it can really mess up the shot. So what you also want to invest in are either reflectors or diffusers. A lot of times diffusers are used to diffuse the light when it's too bright, and reflectors are used to pinpoint the sunlight directly onto your talent. So those are just some of the things about production techniques, and I hope that it helped you today. Like I say, we could go on and on about the production end, but I wanted to cover the 3 most important factors that can get you a really good looking production. So thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. You can also reach out to me. Let me pull up my contact information just in case you want to reach out to me or want to reach out to our office. That's cell number there, office number, our website, and also my email address. Free to reach out to me. If you call my cell phone, it really just depends, but you can always call our office number and we can definitely talk with you then. Our website and then our email address as well, or my email address as well. So do we have any questions, any comments, anything? And I'll look on Facebook as well. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you're watching live, thank you so much for sharing and for tuning in. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to us. And I look forward to our class on next week.
Thank you, Brent. Really fun night. Learned a lot. Thank you. All right. Good night.
Good night.
We're over.
I'm not real.